Hey guys, Kevin here to bring you a new video today. And today, welcome to a bonus edition of Horror October, where today I'm going to be talking about a film that I just finally got to watch yesterday called The Lighthouse. This was definitely an interesting one for sure. It was pretty unique in like the setting it was in and the characters that we had in this story. I thought it was pretty good. It was brought by A24, who has gone on to help make many good films like Hereditary, The Witch, Midsommar, and other non horror movies as well. This was pretty good. I'll just say right now, I don't think this was as good as The Witch. Just throwing that out there is my opinion, but yeah, I enjoyed this. My the biggest issue that I want to bring to the forefront about this movie is that the dialogue is even harder to understand in this one than it was in The Witch. If you see my previous video on The Witch, I do mention the dialogue, and that is rather hard to understand. But the dialogue in this is even harder to understand, I'll just say. And I wish that we had subtitles for this movie because, personally, even though it was in a loud ass theater where you could hear the movie clearly, um, even then, the character's dialogue was sometimes tough to pick up on, I'll say. Um, but, it definitely plays itself up to be a horror movie, but, like, I feel like the story that it drives and the whole, like, concept that it brings to the table doesn't exactly, like, make it a horror movie. I'm sorry if you guys, like, don't agree with that, but, like, I feel like the score that's brought into it definitely plays it up to be a horror movie, and like the different like building of tension between the characters, these two characters of we'll call them Winslow and Tom. They go by different names throughout. That's kind of confusing, but one of them goes by Winslow at one point, and one of them goes by Tom at one point. Um, another one also goes by Tom, so that's also fun. But yeah, no, like they basically like play up the horror of it because like basically they're kind of like losing this guy is brought on as like an apprentice to Willem Dafoe's character to try to like work for him. He does all this stuff to like maintain the area with like shoveling coal, cleaning the floors, painting the lighthouse, cleaning the lighthouse, just all sorts of stuff that he does. He's like a hard labor worker, and I guess he wanted like some good money, but he starts to lose his mind because he feels like he's being like enslaved by this guy who's like kind of like um, torturing him, I guess, to some extent. And that kind of like made him lose his mind and want to kill this guy. And this Willem Dafoe's character also had different things that about him that was getting to him and kept making him want to kill him. There was one thing where like he had a key to the lighthouse and he wouldn't let him go in it. So then that made him wonder what was in the lighthouse. So then towards the end of the movie, he finds out what's in it, which is also like questionable, like what exactly that meant. Like maybe there's like some tie-in to like an old like folk tale or something about all this. Sorry if I'm like not educated, if there is like some lore that goes back on this, but essentially they lose their minds and start turning on each other. And yeah, this guy, played by Robert Pattinson, gives a good performance as well as Willem Dafoe. I'll just say that the acting performances in this movie are definitely the biggest highlight by Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, especially considering they're pretty much the two only characters in this movie, other than like a mermaid, which is also something weird to bring up. But she appears in it for a little bit. Um, they both deliver good emotional performances, and they really put a lot into their characters. Um, Robert Pattinson does when he's losing his mind, but I would also say like Willem Dafoe, just because like his character is much more um, like with that time more. I'd say, like he felt more like like an old timey character than like Robert Pattinson's character did, with like his accent and how he talked. Robert Pattinson's character feels a little bit more current. He still uses like some of the same like verbiage um, that was used back then, as Willem Dafoe does, but like he talks like a lot more like clearly. So if there's anyone's dialogue that's like hard to understand at times, I would say it would be Willem Dafoe's. But like with that being said, like I think that Willem Dafoe deserves an Oscar nomination for this performance, because he's so like emotional at times with like yelling at you know Winslow for not doing a good job, or he's like in his face like when he's not doing a certain thing right at certain times, or like when he's rebelling against him, he like fights back at him in like a really fierce way. Like he just um, puts a lot of might into his character. Um, but yeah, um, but the movie takes a weird turn because like um, I didn't understand this a ton, but like they both end up dying for one reason or another. But the big part of their downfall was was believed to be the fact that they both killed birds. It seemed like, and Willem Dafoe's character said, "Die who kills a seabird will be damned forever," or something like that. Like he says, like you'll be cursed or whatever. And it looked like Willem Dafoe had killed a seagull, but we didn't know. And like Robert Pattinson definitely did. He's like whacking it on the fucking table. It's so funny. He's just like killing it so brutally. Like Jesus Christ, Robert Pattinson. Um, Sorry, I just keep saying actors' names. Winslow kills the seabird. Um, but they're like essentially played up to be like the bad characters in this movie because, throughout the movie, like Winslow is like haunted by them almost like they get in his way sometimes and they try to like attack him and like they're played up. The seagulls or seabirds are played up to be like bad characters in this movie, so like they're like the evil of the movie, I guess. And supposedly like because Winslow kills a seabird, that brings on like a storm which floods their house and causes all sorts of chaos, and then nearly leads to them dying, and then they both just like turn on each other. So it's almost like they were cursed to like turn against each other. And like I mean like Robert Pattinson was already getting like irritated by like the way Tom was treating him. So like, or Willem Dafoe was treating him. So like he wanted to lash out against him, but maybe like him killing the bird had made him want to like um, retaliate. I guess like I'm probably like completely wrong on this like interpretation. Like I haven't seen or looked at any interpretations of this story as to like how it went. So I'm really sorry if like my interpretation of it is just completely wrong. But either way, that's my interpretation of it. And there's a weird part as well where they like encounter like a mermaid, and they're like evil too because like he like he like finds this like statue figure of a mermaid, and he uses it as like a, I don't know, just like a keepsake, something to keep on him. And then he finds a mermaid while he's working, who's like nude, and then like she looks like a normal girl at first, and then he looks down and sees like her mermaid stuff, and she's got like weird stuff going on there. But and yeah, and then she like haunts him in his dreams, and he like gets off to her, but like that like haunts him, I guess. So that was pretty bizarre. But yeah, it definitely plays itself out to be pretty scary. Just with like how they're both like at each other's throats, and then the storm comes, and then at the end there's this. Well, if you haven't seen this film at this point, like, why are you watching this video? Spoiler alert. They both kill each other. Well, um, Winslow kills Tom, so you're like, okay, like he won, he killed him. But then the seagulls, I guess, were like out for blood, um, and they end up like eating him, eating him to death. after he had finally been able to go to the lighthouse. So this is like the big climax of the movie. Like he finally gets to see what's in the lighthouse, and this is also like up for interpretation. Like Tom was playing it up to be like, oh, you don't want to see what's up there. Like, don't go up there. Like, okay, what's up there? And it doesn't really look like anything's up there when he gets there, but then he like looks in this light and he's like mesmerized by it, like, and then like he just gets like pushed down a flight of stairs, and then like he wakes up and he's getting eaten alive by birds. So that's cool. But it's kind of like ambiguous. Like, okay, what's inside the light? Is it just like something that hypnotizes you? Something that gives you like a high? I want to say it's the latter, but again, I don't know. This movie is definitely up for interpretation. I feel like I should like try to like find an analysis for it to see like maybe read a little bit more into it. But I just saw this film last night, so this is just my initial reaction to the movie and what I thought of it. So yeah, I thought the story, for trying to be a horror movie, the story didn't like come up to be like that much of a horror story. It didn't. The story that it brings to the table doesn't really like do justice for like being a horror movie that much, which is like the big thing that I didn't like about the movie is it just didn't feel like a horror movie, even though it tries to think it is with like its score and whatnot, and like the way it's shot, which is beautiful, and beautiful score, but just like, yeah, I don't know, like I feel like the story could have been like better, um, better like made into like a horror movie if it was trying to be a horror movie. And that doesn't have to do with the fact that I might be having trouble like understanding what this movie is about. It's just the fact that they could have added more like horrifying things to this movie. Like maybe if the birds were evil, if the birds were the ones that were evil, maybe they could have like played them up to be more evil, rather than just like focusing on you know Tom and Winslow, stuff like that. But yeah, I really like this film though. Despite it being kind of hard to understand at the time, but that shouldn't really impact the movie itself. That's just me having trouble understanding it, which is fine. But and it was interesting to see the drama between these two characters and the different you know twists and turns they go through. But yeah, it was fun. Definitely, there's some good moments of comedy even. Can't really quite say what they are, but there's definitely some good moments of comedy, and it definitely amps itself up throughout the movie, with the struggles they go through and how they both turn on each other and want to kill each other, and then what happens with the lighthouse is also pretty wild. But yeah, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. I thought it was pretty decent. Not great, but pretty decent. Definitely not as good as The Witch. But yeah, this will be my last edition of Horror October. I'm not gonna do another bonus one. I thought about it, but like, um, I have a lot of movies to watch that are horror that I could do episodes on, but I'm just like so like burnt out from watching all those horror movies this past month. So, but I really wanted to see this one, because like even though it's the end of October, I still wanted to bring out a video for this because this is a new horror movie that came out, so I wanted to see it and be able to make the video for it. So here's to this bonus edition of Horror October. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one.